So, I'm not here to discuss a Banban timeline today. Something like that would be very complicated to try and figure out how to do. Today, I'm going to discuss what I think is the through line of every Banban game. So, a big complaint about the Garten of Banban games is that when you play through the games, it kind of feels like you just go through the game and then stuff just happens sometimes. But there is a consistent through line here, and I think that through line is this idea of the throne. Not necessarily a literal throne, but a metaphorical throne. A throne which represents, quote unquote, kingship over this hellish place. A throne I will call the Throne of Banban. So, let's discuss the scientists behind the facility. So they made these creatures of clay and gave them juvanium so they'd basically be alive now. And they created many of these creatures. They created an unspecified amount. They created like dozens and dozens of them. We have numbers up to like 54, I think, now. So there's a lot of these clay creatures running around down here. But only 6 could be chosen to be the mascots of the kindergarten. And over time, these 6 mascots, which became like the heads of the kindergarten, became Banban, Banbalina, Jumbo Josh, Captain Fiddles, Stinger Flynn, and who was the 6th one? Oh yeah, Apela Bird. So these 6 eventually became like the main mascots of the kindergarten. However, because of that, everyone else was kind of like resided to lower and lower layers of the facility. And as you get deeper and deeper down, you see more of this jealousy and resentment that these characters have towards each other. I'd say there's 2 main groups of mascots throughout the series. These 2 main groups would be Banban's gang, quote unquote, and Banban's gang I'll consider to be the characters in the Stinger Flynn dream sequences. I do think there is something important to the relationship between those 5 specific characters. And then this other group of characters, which is important, are the Queen's Court. In Banban 8, we get like a picture of the full Queen's Court. And I think this is going to end up being the fullness of the Queen's Court. I don't think they're going to add any more characters to it. Basically just because we got a visual depiction of all of them. This was a picture drawn by Bruschetta, the artist of the Queen's Court. And the Queen's Court, essentially, the Queen's Court was headed by Queen Bancilia and Sir Dadadoo. They're sort of like soldiers included Sheriff Toadster, Bitter Giggle, the Surgeon, Syringian, Bruschetta, and like this big cat called Kittysaurus. This is the Queen's Court. Now, they rebelled against the Banban staff, essentially because they realized how horrible they've been treated. And they're like, this kindergarten needs to be under new management, essentially. The management of the Queen. Now, the Surgeon is an interesting example because the Surgeon was one of the rare Juvanium creatures which was allowed to be a staff member of the kindergarten for a time. It's likely that he was removed from staff at some point before the Queen's Rebellion, and while he was in the staff of the kindergarten, he got a say in a lot of the things that the kindergarten did. And essentially, Syringian was experimenting on Banban. Syringian gave Banban essentially what I would call a devil mode, where he would get really agitated and like grow all muscular and like attack people. Syringian put like a hard to control sort of like violent force inside of Banban essentially, so that he'd essentially be a devil, right? Now, after this, the staff noticed Banban's violent tendencies. They didn't know that Syringian was the one behind him yet, but they noticed that Banban started to get violent tendencies, and so they sought to replace Banban with another character, and essentially their plan was they would replace Banban with this blue character named Flumbo, who they called the Anti-Devil. And the idea was that the Anti-Devil would eventually become the main mascot instead of Banban. However, Syringian and Banban formed a plan to hide Flumbo away from the rest of the staff, in a way so that like the staff would presume that Flumbo died, so they just continue on with the plan to make Banban the main mascot. This happened before a lot of this stuff. I imagine eventually Syringian was kicked out, and I think part of the reason he felt bitter towards the staff was because the staff wanted to repurpose Banban, whereas Syringian didn't. In my mind, Syringian sees Banban as like a son, or like a surrogate son of some kind. So eventually Syringian joins the Queen's Court, and the Queen's Court, they form an army of like tiny leeches. These are like their own experiments they've created. They form this little army of leeches called the Naughty Ones, and they use this army to try and take over the kindergarten. They failed, and as a punishment, they locked all of the Naughty Ones away in Queen Bouncilia's pouch, along with Sir Dadadoo, whom the rest sort of put the blame on. They're sort of like, yeah, let this guy take all our punishment. So it's like Germany at the end of World War I. They were I can't believe I referenced that in a Banban video. But yeah, they all put the blame on Sir Dadadoo, although they were kind of all responsible. And so Sir Dadadoo got locked in the pouch too. So at this point, Queen Bouncilia takes charge. Now, every main antagonist we've had since Chapter 4 has been somehow related to this Queen's Court. So, like, our main antagonist in Chapters 1 through 3, this was, like, sort of us going through the living areas of the different mascots. So this is, like, before we get into, like, the hellish limbo area of the kindergarten. So like the main antagonists of like 2 and 3 were like Banbaleena and Stinger Flynn, and that's just because these are the exposition chapters, us getting introduced to the characters. Once we get into Chapter 4 is really when the Queen's Court arc begins, and our first main antagonist is Bittergiggle. Bittergiggle doesn't want to rule; he just wants to make his old friends laugh because he's genetically programmed to make people laugh. And his friends are genetically programmed to laugh at his jokes. However, if he makes the Queen laugh, the pouch will open and Sir Dadadoo will come out, undoubtedly with a deep-seated vengeance against these characters. So during Chapter 4, the Queen is in charge. However, by the end of Chapter 4, Sir Dadadoo is released, the Queen probably dies, and then Sir Dadadoo becomes the main antagonist for a few chapters. After those few chapters, we meet Syringian, and Syringian helps us take down Sir Dadadoo, but Syringian himself seems to want power as well. So, first the throne is owned by Queen Bouncilia, then it passes to Sir Dadadoo, and now it passes to Syringian. Syringian's kind of like a dictator, and they take a lot of cues from real-life dictators throughout history. Or they sort of have like a cult of personality. Stuff like North Korea, where they borderline worship Kim Jong-un, or like Hitler, I guess, as well. Like they give him some Hitler vibes. Um, so Syringian takes charge, uh, and by the end of Banban 8, Syringian dies, but he's not mad about it because he sees Banban as the next one to take the throne. To Syringian, Banban is sort of like a surrogate son of some kind. Banban's like his little bimbo, and so in Syringian's mind, Banban inheriting the throne is like a prince inheriting the throne, like one's offspring inheriting the throne. So he wants to put the devil, the Banban, on the throne of this hellish place. The one member of the court we have not met yet is Brushista. Now, Brushista's interesting because we don't really know Brushista's personality very well. In my mind, Brushista is somewhat critical of the other members of the Queen's Court, because the way Brushista draws the other members of the Queen's Court seems to be through rather satirical imagery, I guess I could say. Whereas Brushista draws herself as like very elegant and perfect, essentially. These paintings that we see in Chapter 8, they seem to be commissioned by Syringian, but they seem to have some bitter sarcasm behind them. That's sort of like hidden in the painting. Like the artist was trying to express their frustrations with Syringian, but they were trying to make it subtle so that Syringian doesn't notice. So, for example, Brushista drew Syringian on the throne with his citizens basically honoring him and worshiping him. Although this is somewhat satirical because it's meant to call out Syringian's cult of personality and how these Juvanium citizens are gullible, essentially, for giving Syringian all this power. And then we have the painting Dysfunctional, which seems to be Brushista hiding the members of the Queen's Court behind this abstract representation. Like, none of them look exactly like the members of the Queen's Court, but if you notice the shaping, you'll see that they are. So you can see, like, Sheriff Toadster, you can see Syringian's face in the background, you can see Sir Dadadoo's mouth. The most obvious two, I'd say, would be Bittergiggle and Queen Bouncilia as, like, more humanoid representations, and then you have Brushista herself in the background as sort of like this little yellow thing. In that sense, I think Brushista is also a character who wants the throne. And so we'll probably have a few chapters of dealing with her as an antagonist before we have to square up against Banban himself. So essentially the idea of the throne of Banban is that the kindergarten was going to set up a main mascot of the kindergarten, which was supposed to be Flumbo after Banban got his violent tendencies, but they made it Banban anyway. However, at the fall of the kindergarten, Bouncilia took charge, and so the idea behind every Banban game is that the throne is passing to the next antagonist of each chapter. So this will eventually end where Banban will take the throne. This will eventually end in which this new version of Banban, I'm going to call him Nephilim Banban, I guess. This will end when Nephilim Banban takes the throne. And he will essentially be our final boss. How will we defeat him? In my mind, we have to get Banban to remember his former humanity. However, he might be too far gone. We don't know. We're also gonna have a fight against Hellish Nabnab in the future. I can imagine that. He's he's sort of started to exist and has just been in the background of each game, but we've never really had a direct encounter with him since he showed up. So in the future, I'd say our biggest threats will be Brushista, Hellish Nabnab, who has not had a boss encounter yet, and Nephilim Banban. And also Ooga Baluna. Also Oogie Baluna, whatever his name is. He's gonna play some role in the future, and we just don't know what it is, and quite frankly, I do not care.